Hello, everyone. Good morning, good early afternoon, and welcome to Coffee with Cannon, or if you prefer, Bitching with Bill. I promise not to bitch too much today. So maybe this will just be Coffee with Cannon. Sunday morning, beautiful day. How's everyone doing today, all right? Busy, busy news cycle. How crazy. Where is everyone? 24 seconds. You guys are getting slower and slower to the draw. I gotta I guess announce that I'm coming on. We're at 30 seconds and there's no one here yet. The only one here is me. There we go. The first person just came in. Kathy Bates. Good to see you. Yeah, quick to the draw. Of course, she's a member. Hey, hey, hey. Uh, Elise E. Hi there. Alicia B. Good morning. Good morning, guys. Great to see everybody. Joe Murray. Joe, I got to talk to you. I mean, one of our subscribers, one of our fans, whatever you want to call it, she came up with a great idea, and I promised to put her name up. I should have wrote it down. I didn't write it down. She's from, I believe, Scandinavia, and she recommended that I do a Christmas show. And I think that's a great idea, like Christmas stories, like heartfelt Christmas stories from cops. And I think that Joe Murray, I love the show with John Palucci. Every once in a while you do a show that you really are proud of, and I happen to be very proud of that show. Not John Palucci's a gem, amazing, but Phil rose to the occasion, and I think that show was just, you know, I think you got to answer the media. When the media puts out garbage, that interview with George Stephanopoulos was enough to make you vomit. I mean, it was so dishonest on so many levels. George Stephanopoulos acted as if it was this hard-hitting interview. He was not asking him any difficult questions whatsoever. It was pathetic. It was actually pathetic. No follow-up questions. Michael Vecchione, good to see you, buddy. Great. We're going to have you on again very soon. Great to see you, Mike. Yeah, so we had to counter it, but we countered it with science. And that's why I brought on John Palucci. He showed that there was no way for that firearm to go off unless Alec Baldwin pulled the trigger. And I don't know who advised him. If those were attorneys, because it was obviously that was rehearsed. That whole episode was so rehearsed, it was sickening. And he was a bad actor. If he thinks he's going to win an Oscar, he's not going to win it through that. And the crocodile tears. But I think what was the most egregious thing he said, and you guys could agree or disagree with me, was that he took absolutely no responsibility. When he was asked, "Do you have any guilt over these?" He said, "None." That's a pathetic human being, a very pathetic human being. Yeah, well, the behavior panel, of course it was staged. I don't need the behavior panel to tell me that. I'm a New York City retired detective sergeant. I don't need those three guys to tell me it was staged. Don't annoy me like that. Yeah, Joe, he admitted that he intentionally pulled back the hammer and then let it go. But Joe, you cannot do that and have it go forward unless your finger's on the trigger. So his lie, he got caught up in his lie. His lie was totally, totally pathetic. So I don't know if we'll revisit that. I mean, it was sort of, I think what he thought it was going to be was a self-serving, almost like an infomercial that was going to clear him and get public sympathy. But instead, it backfired. It was totally, I mean, I don't know. Well, first of all, I don't know of any Alec Baldwin fans. I guess it's the people I hang out with. I don't know anyone that likes that guy. But even people that may like him, I don't see how they could watch that interview and come away with like, "Oh yeah, what a good guy. What a good guy." He came away as a pathetic narcissist. That's how to me, it came across. He's a pathetic narcissist. And I couldn't, but you know something? I'm glad there's people like him because it gives guys like me a chance to refute the things he says and use science to refute it. Because the left always says, "Oh, I believe in science," until it goes against their ideology. Then not so much. Then they don't believe in science all of a sudden. Well, we just showed you the science of firearms. And, I don't know if you guys know, he also admitted that he was pointing the gun and adjusting the gun. Yeah, Joe Murray made that comment. Everything he said implicated him more than if he had kept his mouth shut. So he had time to make sure the gun wasn't pointed at anyone. 100%, Joe. So everything, all the self-serving crap he said, instead, it was like a boomerang. It came back and slapped him right in the face, because I'm sure he's a trained liar, but this was not just being a trained liar, it was being a trained liar using faulty information. Whoever advised him did a very poor job. Andrea Telu, it's very cold here in Germany and dark, dark, dark. 2M, my son is a gunsmith, total garbage response. Barbara Kukuru, did she have a MAGA hat on? I found the same interview more inculpatory than anything else. That's a good word, Joe. Excellent word. That's a legal word. Excellent, excellent word. The other big story, well, there was a couple other big stories, but another big story, at least in the New York area, was that Chris Cuomo from CNN was fired. First, they suspended him. I mean, it's so, in a way, it's so pathetic, because calling him a journalist is like calling me an armorer. He's so far from being a journalist. He's just an operative of opinions that happen to be far left. So to call him a journalist, and how he, just got a job out of law school with a major network. He started with ABC, and then ABC took him from CNN took him from ABC. So, I mean, do you think that has anything to do with his last name and that his father was governor that he got that job? I wonder. I wonder. I'm being sarcastic. Chris Cuomo, actually, I believe he went to Yale undergrad, and I could be wrong, but I know he went to Fordham Law School. And I remember during the riots last year, he said, "Where in the Constitution does it say riots, protests have," he didn't say riots, he said protests have to be peaceful. And I think in the very first few sentences it says peaceful demonstrations. And this is a guy with a law degree. And I guess he didn't read the Constitution in several years. Why did we all know? Because CNN, why did we all know that he was, the Cuomo's, I don't know if any of you guys watched the podcast by Michael Franchese. It might be pronounced Franchese. He's a former Made guy, wise guy, but very articulate, very smart guy. And his podcast is like off the charts. I think his podcast is actually more successful than Sammy the Bull's. I think he's got, maybe, 700, 800,000 subscribers. But he said in his life in organized crime, he said anyone who was ever a bully got theirs in the end. He goes, you can't go through life being a bully. And then he said the Cuomos, that's their whole thing. Both of them, the governor and his brother, were both bullies. Guess what? Now, when they're both down, they're both unemployed now. You think anyone's going to come to their defense and be like, "Oh, they're good guys"? Or anyone that knows them is running for the hills right now. So Michael Franchese, a former Made guy, is saying that bullies never prosper. Barbara Kukuru, Mario Cuomo was a bully too. I don't know that much about Mario, but I'm sure, because if he raised these two guys, how did they become bullies? They just invented being bullies themselves? No, they probably witnessed it their whole life. So now both of them. I bet you though, Andrew Cuomo gets back into politics. He'll wait a year or two till this all. What? The one thing I hated, and I think this is part of being the bullies they are, renaming the Tappan Zee Bridge to the Mario M. Cuomo Bridge. How did Mario rise to the level of superstardom that they named a bridge after him? People that live in Rockland County were pissed off at that. No one was consulted. There was no vote. Andrew Cuomo decided to name the bridge after his father. And I would love to see it renamed back to the Tappan Zee Bridge, because it's pathetic that they named that bridge after his father to begin with. If you guys aren't from New York, all the bridges in New York are named after dead Democrats. I used to do a comedy bit about that. The 59th Street Bridge is now the Edward I. Koch Bridge, the Triborough Bridge, which makes tons of sense to call it the Triborough because it connects three boroughs. It's now named the Robert F. Kennedy Bridge. It's like, it's incredible. Every time they get a chance, they want to name another bridge after a dead Democrat. Uh, Polka Dot Suzanne. Well, not officially, it's not called the Tappan Zee. It's called the Mario and Cuomo Bridge. So, guys, this is Coffee with Cannon. So great to see you today. I have another show today at 3 o'clock with Phil, and we're interviewing Willie DeMeo, a filmmaker, an actor, grew up in Bensonhurst. So he's going to give us some of that Brooklyn flavor that, Phil's good. Phil's straight out of Brooklyn, but apparently so is Willie DeMeo from Bensonhurst. And he makes a lot of, Tucker Carlson is no better than Chris Cuomo, another fake journalist. Yeah, well, something, they're giving opinion pieces. It's not straight stories. They're not, it's really not journalism. You're right. It's not. They're more or less pontificating about stories. But then don't call them journalists then. And, CNN calls their reporters journalists. Yeah, the gallery of dead white guys, right. There's other bridges in New York, though, named after, well, look, the airports, Kennedy Airport, I had to look it up with the George Washington Bridge. George was not a Democrat or a Republican. So thank God for that, right? Any of you guys, any of you retired coppers that are listening, Lieutenant Pete, Joe Murray, anyone else, if you have a great Christmas story about something you did when you were on the police department, email me, all right? policeoffthecuff1@gmail. Policeoffthecuff, the number 1 at Gmail. And tell me the story. I want to do a Christmas show, and I want to put on guys that have great stories, great Christmas stories. Because, the problem is on YouTube, I can't play Christmas music because I'll get hit with a copyright infringement, and YouTube doesn't screw around with that. They hit you with a copyright thing, and, so I can't, you couldn't even play Christmas songs having someone else sing the songs or play them because they'll get hit with a copyright infringement. So, but we can come up with great stories. So if you guys have great stories, Coffee with Cannon, guys, cheers. If you're not subscribed to Police Off the Cuff, please go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up. We have a Patreon. We have 3 levels to the Patreon. If you want to support us through Patreon, we also have a YouTube channel. And for $2.99 a month, you're the bucket. For $6.99 a month, you're backyard beverage, I think it was called in the beginning. $9.99, you can polish my rack. $24.99, you're dipped in butter. And $49.99, you're heated, dipped in butter. And that's the real supporters of Police Off the Cuff. Guys, thank you so much for all you've done for us this year. And, I'm so looking forward. I mean, the show that we did on Alec Baldwin in response, Norma Conway, I do listen to Michael Franchese, and he's right on. It's a very smart guy. I think that had he not been a wise guy, he could have been successful in almost anything he did because he's very articulate, he's very smart, he's very personable. Bernie Manley, cheers, my feet up and coffee time. Cheers, guys. I actually have my water with me. And when we do that Christmas show, I'll make sure I do it at about like 9 o'clock, the date, and we'll have some Baileys, we'll have some Andrea Talo, sing at Christmas. I can't because any song that I would sing, I would get hit with a copyright infringement unless I wrote the song. And I haven't written any Christmas songs. Lisa Rosh, how are you? Joe Murray. Kathy Bates, he's similar to an evangelical preacher now. I don't know about that. Cheers, Sergeant Bill, Kimberly Myers. Great to see everybody here. I just want to go over some of our shows today at 3 o'clock. It doesn't matter if the song is not your song, and it's YouTube does this. I'm not saying anyone, but YouTube hits you with a copyright infringement, so they can freeze your video. So you got to be very careful. Today at 3 o'clock, we have Willie DeMeo, myself, and Phil Grimaldi, straight out of Brooklyn. Phil Grimaldi, and Willie DeMeo is an actor, a filmmaker, straight out of Brooklyn. Sarah Hill. And then on Tuesday, and we've been waiting to do this show for a while, we have Michelle McPhee, who wrote the book Mayhem, that's about the Boston Marathon bombing. And along with Michelle McPhee, we're going to have Cliff Moylan, who was the actor that played the part in the movie of Sergeant McClellan. And we're actually trying to get the real, in the flesh and blood, Sergeant McClellan, that was one of the heroes of the Boston Marathon bombing, in that he shot it out with the Tsarnaev brothers, and him and a bunch of other Watertown police actually succeeded in shooting and killing Tamerlan Tsarnaev. Judy Fisher, I'm not a fan of Giuliani at all, but I think he did a great job on 9/11. Yes, I think Giuliani did do a good job. So on Tuesday, we're going to have Michelle McPhee. On Wednesday, I have a retired NYPD special victims detective by the name of John Beza, who just wrote a book on the complete guide to sex crime investigations. He's going to talk about a sex crime pattern on the Upper East Side from 1994 to 1998. There were 16 incidents, and the perpetrator was never caught. So he's going to discuss that case, which I think is very, very interesting. That's John Beza, and that's going to be Wednesday night, the 15th at 9 p.m. On Thursday night, December 16th, is Kyle and Jen Bethune. You know, the folks that Red, White, and Bethune that travel the world in their mobile home with their 3 kids, and the ones who discovered Gabby Petito's van on the 27th of August. And as a result of that, the searchers were able to find Gabby Petito's remains and find a little bit of closure to the family. So that is Kyle and Jen Bethune. They're coming on the 16th. Now, I believe, I'm not sure if it's the 12/21 or we're going to have to change the date. We're having Jimmy Calandra come back on. Great storyteller. He's got his own channel. And he's coming on. I'll get you the exact date because we may have... Hello from Oxford, the UK. Nikki Bella. How are you, Nikki Bella? Great to see you. So great to have you guys join me here. Betty Spaghetti, I think they should be charged at Burning Man. They are part of the reason legal gun owners are demonized. Yeah, I guess so. And on... I'm going to solidify that schedule because Jimmy Calandra, we may have changed the date of his appearance. But on 12/22, you guys are going to be excited about this. We have Andy, the Gabby Cabby, is coming on. How great is that? So even though we agreed to do the show at 7 p.m. here is midnight in London. So I think it's going to be a really cool show. He's got his own podcast, Andy the Gabby Cabby, and it's going to be a thrill to have him on the show. You know, it's just unbelievably great. The other real big story, Lincoln Clay, I wonder what percent of your subscribers are British. There's a lot. There's a lot of them, you know. There's a lot of British and Irish, and there's people from all over, you know, which is so exciting. You know, one of the things I looked up on YouTube is that 71% of our subscribers are women, which is, that's a great thing. It's a great thing, you know. And the opposite is true on Anchor. We have 9 listening sites, like Spotify, Google, Stitcher, all these other sites. Like 82% are men that listen to this, that don't watch it, but listen to it. That's unbelievable, right? It's so different. 71% watch it on YouTube, and 82% male, 71% female watch it on YouTube, and 82% male listen to it. I don't know what that's for. Hey, CR Patrick, how are you? Great to see you. I love those little shamrocks there. 4-leaf clovers, shamrocks, whatever we call them, right? It's so cool. The other big story, which was a horrible story, was coming out of Michigan, was that 15-year-old active shooter that killed Janet Locke from Australia. Great to see you. His name was Ethan Crumley. And he killed 4 of his classmates with a gun that his father bought him, like for his upcoming birthday. Just a horrendous story. Anytime you hear of an active shooter, kids killing kids, and it always reminds me, it would seem that one of the first ones of that genre was Columbine. and I don't have the exact year of Columbine, but those two kids, they had killed their classmates because they were being bullied, and just a horrible story. And since Columbine, I can't even count the number of active shooters we had. But one of the problems with the term active shooter is it means a very specific thing. As an active shooter is someone who goes into a location and for no reason whatsoever just starts shooting people indiscriminately. Uh, the media sometimes uses that term to describe things. Columbine was 1999. Yeah, horrible, horrible event. Uh, Rochella Pranzo, how are you? Yeah, it was a horrible event, but that's the one that's sort of imprinted in our mind. And since then, there's been so many active shooter incidents that it's a horrible, horrible thing to occur. When you worry about going out in public. Remember we had that, also I think it was in Colorado, the shooter in that movie theater who was dressed like the Riddler. Do you remember that one? That was crazy too. I mean, it's just, and there's been numerous. There's been the one in Florida where the guy went into the gay club and just started indiscriminately killing people. That's an active shooter, you know. And you know, when horrendous situations like active shooters occur, that's when you really need the police, you know. Well, you need the police every day, but in the last year and a half, 2 years, there was the whole war on police nationally, the defund the police movement. It made a horrible situation for law enforcement over. And I was on News Nation last week, and the topic was last year more police officers were killed in the line of duty than any other year. And Joe Donlin, the host of the show, asked me why did I think that was. And I said, well, that's obvious. I said, it's the defund the police movement. It's the lack of support for the police. It's the disrespect for the police. It's the war on the police started by politicians who were behind this defund the police movement. And, you know, we look at the Chauvin, of course, the Chauvin who got sentenced basically life in prison for that arrest of George Floyd. Now, did every cop in the nation have to be punished because of what Derek Chauvin did? But that's what occurred. And that's what was behind a lot of this defund the police movement. Now all these cities where crime is going out of control, all of a sudden these people that were pushing for the defund the police, they're like trying to say, oh, I didn't say that. I was never behind that. We play some of the video of them during this when they were supporting the defund the police movement, you know. The other topic we covered was the cities that are getting these smash and grab burglaries and robberies where, you know, 20, 30 people come into a store, a high-end store, and they just fleece the place. They just steal everything. And they asked me questions about that. Why do I think that's happening? And that's happening because there's no punishment for larceny. There's no punishment. You know, it's people can get away with it. And if they get caught, nothing happens to them. Bail reform. There's been people in New York City. There's one specific person who was arrested 5 times in the last year for a gun. Each time he was bailed. That guy shouldn't be out on the street. Obviously, it's not working. They need to rewrite the law. I don't think bail reform ever meant, you know, bail is supposed to just ensure that you show up for your next court date. But if you're a menace to society, how can any judge issue bail? I mean, judges need to have the discretion to say, no, this guy's dangerous. I'm not bailing him. He's getting no bail. He's remanded. That's what needs to happen, you know? It needs to happen that really, really sick, Mickey V said so sick, and I'm reading it, but really, really dangerous people should not get bail, you know? I don't know if you saw it. Well, it's just, violent crime is a result of this. You know, we were all, guys my age and above, we were part of the broken windows style policing that took back New York City. Sue M, smash and grabs get out of jail immediately here in California. Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's going on with impunity, impunity. And, it's just the whole philosophy of criminal justice reform is coddling criminals. I don't know, JT. I don't know if Willie DeMeo is related to Roy DeMeo. Willie, we booked Willie DeMeo. Actually, Phil booked Willie DeMeo. He knows him. I don't know a lot about him. I looked at his IMDb. I looked at his showbiz credentials, but beyond that, I don't know that much about him. So it's we'll see. Tune in tonight. This afternoon at 3:00, and we'll find all about Willie DeMeo. Lisa Rosh. It's a invitation to commit crimes. Yeah, if there's no consequences for bad acts, why would you? Isn't the law and the threat of punishment what keeps most people in line? No, our sentencing, I think, in this country, what the media never tells you is that almost no, at least in New York, almost no one goes away on their first offense or second offense, sometimes even third offense. They have to do. They have to commit numerous offenses to actually get sentenced to jail or prison. It's that whole philosophy called decarceration, where they don't want people to go into jail. That's why they're closing in New York, closing Rikers Island. That's why they're trying to close state prisons, because they want criminals to live among us, because it's less expensive, and it's an ideology. I would think that most of the people that make these laws don't live in these urban centers where bailed criminals go right back out on the street. Joe Murray put the word deterrence. Yeah. Where is the deterrent if there's no penalty for committing a crime? Are you deterred from doing it in the future? No. It's just like I would love to know, well, we won't know for years because of the whole federal government just pouring money into every city. But the MTA, which is the authority that handles transit in New York City, the subways and everything, I guarantee they would be totally broke if they didn't get this big money from the federal government, because a large portion of the riding population are not paying. They're just jumping the turnstiles. And that was a way that the police, they enforced the law on the subway. You jump the turnstile, you get arrested for theft of service misdemeanor. Now we can search you. Oh, you got a gun on you? Now you got an even bigger problem, But the police no longer have that because they made jumping the turnstile a civil matter. So it's no longer a criminal matter, it's a civil matter. There's something also in criminal justice reform you may not be aware of. Instead of incarceration, there's something called diversion. So if you continually keep getting arrested, instead of them sending you to jail or sending you to prison, they send you to some program, whether it be a drug rehab program, a mental health program, a violence reduction program, all these feel-good, progressive ideas that don't work, and they have no statistics. Well, restorative justice, Joe, is to restore the victim back to being whole, which never happens, right? If someone assaults you, you want that person to be punished. How are you going to be restored to the way you were before that occurrence, that happened, before you were assaulted? That's restorative justice. And the whole diversion thing. Yes, let's let the criminal live in his home with his family. I don't think a family wants a criminal that keeps committing crimes to live back with them. I'm going on a rant again. How do you guys get me going on rants? It goes from Coffee with Cannon, cheers everyone, Coffee with Cannon, to bitching with Bill. It always turns into bitching with Bill, But that's okay, Liberal professors and teachers, restoration to the whole is like closure, no such thing. Lisa Rosh, Alicia B, Nikki Bella, good to see all you guys here. Joe Murray. Joe, how's your podcast going? Allegedly Guilty. How's everything going with that? It's not as easy as it looks, right, Joe? These podcasts, it's tough sometimes. It's not easy. Yakking in the yard with Bill, Sue M said. That's a pretty damn good, you guys come up with some good. Backyard beverage was the one that Josh, I think, suggested, backyard beverages. I'm looking forward to the next time. When we do the holiday show, I'm definitely going to have a big glass of Baileys. A big, wine, little wine glass full of Baileys. Joe Murray, it's just taxing on my time. You know what it is, Joe? It's not just going on the air. It's doing the research for it, right? So that you know what the hell you're going to talk about. Because it's not so easy to talk for an hour, right? An hour and 15, whatever, however long you do it, right? Rant coffee and pass the scone. Joe Murray's got 5 cases that he's preparing for trial. Oof. No, Lisa Arath, we haven't gotten snow yet. We got a little dusting one day, but no real amount of snow, Bernie Manley, cheers to you all. Baileys and coffee. I just like it straight up. You know what I used to do? I used to put Baileys straight up and a tiny little bit of vodka on top, just to give it a little kick, That little kick of vodka on the top of the Baileys. Let it float on the top, but then mix it up a little bit. Give you a little kick. So, what's everyone doing this Sunday afternoon? Just relaxing? Sarah Monson from Tennessee, good to see you. A Joe Murray workhorse. I like Jameson's with my Baileys. Woof, that's pretty strong. A little shot or just a little bit on the top? Yes, Joe, I did see a client in the newspapers with the fake gun charges, and I saw the story on the Mount Vernon police. That made the New York Times, so... Patty L, beautiful and warm here in California. Butterscotch schnapps on top. Whoa, butterscotch schnapps. That's got to be pretty damn strong, right? Definitely need more than a glass of wine, a glass of Baileys. Irish car bombs. That's going to trial. Wow, that's pretty cool, Joe. And Joe's going to be a famous attorney, all because of Police Off the Cuff. Featured him on our show so many times. He's getting famous. He's getting YouTube famous. Isn't that right, Joe? Joe, put a 1 in the chat if that's right. Church soon, Sergeant Bill, Kimberly Myers. Cool. Sober, 5 years, Mickey V. Good for you. Good for you. I'm sober for 7 days. I just wanted to take a break from it for like a week. And a week. It's not hard, I just enjoy my wine usually. But sometimes you just do it because you're used to doing it as a habit. You do it every morning, right? Jimmy Kalana, good afternoon. Jimmy, how are you, buddy? I know that Philly was trying to change the date you were coming on the show, and I'll talk to Philly today, and we'll solidify that and get the exact date. I think I booked you on the 21st, and then he realized he had something on that date, so we'll change that date. Lisa Rosh, Jim Beam and ginger ale. Oof, that sounds pretty interesting. So. Patty L, Sue, I'd go months without booze until it's boating season. The Spitzer case is spiking up again. I may do an interview with her. Whoa. Who are you going to do an interview with in regards to Spitzer? Not the woman, the call girl, that client. He was client number 5 too. Is that who you're going to interview? You should put her on. Let us get her. We'll interview her. Thank you, Factual Breakdown. We have a great guest lineup coming up. You're right, 100%. Well, I'm trying to always get great guests, That's what makes the show interesting. And you guys in the chat. That's what really keeps the show going along, keeps it interesting. And, of course, Coffee with Cannon and McGarden. There we are. With the dipped in butter on the back. So if you guys are not subscribed to Police Off the Cuff, you got to get on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up, all of that stuff. Kathy Bates, you didn't like the medium. Something, I don't really believe in mediums either, but Kathy Bates, was it entertaining? A lot of this show, it can't all be just pure fact. There has to be an entertainment portion to it, right? Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I'm not a believer. I'm totally not a believer in mediums. But that doesn't mean I'm not a believer in Dr. Phil either.
what you need to do is listen to me and look at my $50,000 watch and come get me more guests so I can just act like I'm a doctor. So, yeah, Laura the Oracle was Oracle Laura. She was interesting. I'm not a big, yeah, but look, a lot of people liked it, even though it's not. Yeah, I mean, it's mediums are mediums, you know. Talk show host, the talk show host. Right. I'm not a real doctor, but I know how to play one on television, and because I do play one on television, I got this $50,000 watch that Oprah got me. You know. Uh, Thank you, Lorna. It's probably a bad impression of Dr. Phil, but it's my impression, you know. So, guys, I'm at 35 minutes, almost 36 minutes. We're going to be on today at 3 p.m. Myself, Phil Grimaldi, and Willie DeMeo. So please tune in at 3 p.m. You can watch the football game too while you're watching us, you know, or whatever you like to watch on Sunday afternoons. So, Dr. Phil was a jury consultant, got a big break on Oprah. Yeah, I don't doubt it. I mean, come on. So did Dr. Oz. What was Dr. Oz's television talent? Now Dr. Oz wants to run for Senate. That could be me in a couple of years. I catapult myself from police off the cuff real crime stories. I'm running for senator now. You know, I doubt it. But you never say no. Guys, have a great day. Thank you so much for listening in today. And tune in with us today at 3 p.m. This has been Coffee with Cannon. Cheers. Have a great day and be safe.